Welcome back to Soul Shift, the podcast where real life, science, and soul all get a seat at the table. I'm Mindy Gorman-Plutzer, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Christine Morgenstern, Shin. If you're new to Soul Shift, this is a space for people, especially women in midlife, who are navigating big shifts in their bodies, their relationships, their work, and their sense of self. We talk about the moments that change us, the nervous system behind it all, and how to come home to yourself in the sometimes messy middle of it.
And today we're talking about something that I think will deeply resonate with high-achieving women. Well, they look very successful on the outside, but they may feel anxious, overwhelmed, or just that overall feeling of always being on the inside. And so we're exploring how predictable daily rhythms create emotional steadiness, and how consistency creates calm, and how finishing what matters becomes a healing act.
And our guest today is Jo Esser, a keynote speaker, leadership coach, and creator of Winning Rhythms, the Finish Line Formula. She helps high-achieving women and leaders restore clarity, calm, and momentum by mastering simple daily rhythms that build self-trust and sustainable success. Jo is a former IT quality executive who's built an award-winning department with zero voluntary employee attrition for over 12 years, retaining every single team member through a leadership cycle rooted in care, clarity, and high standards. She's led high-performing remote teams long before it became common practice, and she's worked with the Roger Love organization supporting premier clientele, leadership programs, and speaker development.
What I love about Amy Jo's work is that she blends modern science, so predictability, decision reduction, completion, with ancient wisdom around ritual, discipline, and devotion. She brings decades of real-world leadership experience. She's known for translating discipline into devotion and helping people finish what matters, one rhythm at a time.
Welcome to Soul Shift, where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life come alive.
Soul Shift is your weekly dose of inspiration and a reminder that meaningful change can be both gentle and powerful.
Together, we'll unlock practical tools, share conversations that spark something beautiful, and celebrate every facet of your incredible human experience.
Your energy matters, your growth matters, and you matter. Let's shift boldly,
joyfully,
together. Amy Jo, welcome to Soul Shift. We're so grateful to have you here.
Well, I'm so excited to be here and grateful too, and honored that I was asked to be a guest on this show. I've listened to all of your podcasts, every single show, and they're all amazing. So I feel very honored to be here, and I'm excited.
Thank you, Amy Jo. That really means a lot. You are one of my most favorite people. So I want to start with something that I see constantly in women I work with, and frankly, something I've lived myself. High-achieving women looking successful on the outside, running businesses, leading teams, managing families, but inside feeling anxious, overwhelmed, or always on. There's this constant edge, this inability to truly rest, to feel comfortable about resting, feeling uncomfortable and unsettled. So my question to you is, why isn't just more willpower, the way we're taught to push through? Why isn't that the answer?
Well, thank you for that question. Let me go back and start from the beginning. I grew up on a farm, and my family all believed I was transported at birth. I should have been born in California in the nice warm sun, but I was born in Wisconsin on a farm. And I knew early on that farm was not a place for me to be. I didn't like anything about the farm. I'm grateful for it now because it gave me my work ethic, and it really gave me a lot of who I am. But at the time living there, I knew that this was not a job I wanted. I'm going to school. in college, first year, not really knowing exactly what to do. And then I come upon what a courtroom reporter is. So I moved back to Madison because that wasn't offered at my 4-year school. It was a 2-year program. So I moved back to Madison, and a lot of people wanted that same profession. And so there was a wait list. So I ended up getting a full-time job, went on the wait list, and I found a job that was called professional data processing. It was where developers, programmers were working on accounting for other companies. I became best friends with a couple of the developers there, and they talked to me about maybe becoming a developer. And while I was in that job, about a year into it, when I was getting time that maybe I was going to be able to take a course or two, one day I looked at the clock and it was 3:00. And I thought, 3:00, this day is never going to end. And I was bored when I think about it because I had done everything in the job. I had organized and structured everything. And to be a courtroom reporter, I knew it was going to take 40 hours basically in the courtroom and then 40 hours of transcribing. And I thought at that moment, I can't do 80 hours worth of work when I can hardly get through a day. But then continuing talking with my friends who were developers, they talked me into taking a non-credit class. I did. I loved it. And I'm like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to be. I went full-fledged, became a developer. And they both had moved on to this amazing company that I wanted to work at. So I set my sights high. I got all the A's and became president and everything. I could become president and did all the things. And I got that job. And I fell in love with the job because I had made that promise to myself when I had looked at that clock at 3:00 that day that I would only go and work at a job that I loved. And that's really what carried me through. And what I found is when it shortly even into this new job, and it was that same way my entire career still is, anytime I look at 3:00, now I think, oh, the day, I wish it was earlier in the day that I had more time. And so that was the difference. And looking back, a lot of it was when I was on the farm, my heart wasn't there. And in that first job, my heart wasn't there. But when I made the decision to love my job, and I made also the decision I would love the problems, the people, and the processes, and I did early on. So I was fortunate from that. And after analyzing a lot of this, I really believe that that is the number one strategy. I say love is my number one business strategy. And I feel like if you love your job and you love all of it, it's not so stressful because you can bring love to the job. And another thing that I created was called the fear versus love filter. And to figure out, am I fearing what I'm supposed to be doing? And if I am, to try to figure out why I do this. This is in my first part of, I have a 3-part Winning Rhythms finish line formula. And it's the awareness part, is starting to look at what you're doing. And is it because, are you being fearful? Or can you change that and flip it and do it in love? And so figuring that out, that brings a lot of stress, I feel, out of the picture, that you can be focused on what you love and putting yourself into that. And it really, for me, I've never felt burned out once in my life. And believe it or not, I loved working out 80 hours a week. I could work even more because I did love my job. So it was all flipped. I think that really thinking too, why do I not get burned out? Because I hear so many women are burned out. And it really came down to, I believe, in the whole love and working in love versus fear.
So basically, what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, is that's what's missing. So
Yeah.
the high achievers who feel chronically on edge, they aren't fully in it.
And they often are working from the outside in. And in my program, we work from the inside out. So also in this awareness, rhythm, and it works in several different layers. That's what's so cool about it. But the first layer is just going internally and thinking about these things. Am I even working in a job that I love? Is the place I should be? Am I enjoying the people that I'm working with? And starting thinking there and pausing there and taking a look at, do I love what I do on a daily basis? And if I'm not, you're probably maybe not in the right role. And you could look at changing that, or you can look at a lot of the awareness piece I do too. It's mindset. I don't have bad days. I haven't had a bad day. I mean, other than maybe a loss, a real true loss of a person like my brother. I haven't had bad days in 30 years because I choose not to have a bad day. Now, I may have bad moments in the day. For me, it's like I have these declarations I do in the morning, and one of them is bringing the joy. And the joy for me, it's not a mood. It is really setting how I'm going to be in that day and that I'm going to operate in love. And I go forward with that.
So plowing through, relying on willpower, is just adding more to your to-do list instead of learning to be.
To be, yes. I believe you could be fully high achieving and full of peace. Those two can coincide together. You just have to approach it and go through it. And a lot of it is mindset, going internal. And a lot of high achieving women think they don't have time to stop to do the analysis to really kind of figure out where they are because they're living in reactive mode and having to put out the next fire and do the next grand thing.
Amy, what I'm thrilled about is that you shared with the audience that love, fear are opposites. And, fear being that lowest vibrational, energetic, on the emotional guidance scale, and love being the highest. And with you sharing about setting the intention out of the gate right when you wake up and doing it from a seat of love, how that can completely transform your whole entire day. And that to me is just invaluable information right there.
And I was lucky I learned it at a pretty early stage because I can tell you back before I started I've done a ton of mindset work and a ton of work. I'm in personal development all the time. I did have bad days and I was cranky, but I don't have that anymore. I might, someone might trip my button closely with my husband, but not often. Not really very often. And again, I just recover from it right away because I just get myself back into a place of love. And it's easy now because part of my rhythm too is you do it every single day consistently, one rep at a time. And you keep building and building and building. And over time, that's again with the mindset. I say you got to look at your mindset. And if you're tromping around in your mind like you would never do for anyone else, if you'd never speak to anybody else that way, why would you speak to yourself that way? You have to have the self-love. You got to start with self-love. And once you start becoming aware, again, this is an awareness rhythm of thinking about how you're talking to yourself. And I can tell you, I didn't used to talk to myself very good at all. But now I flip it. If you say, I'm so stupid, no, I'm brilliant or whatever, you just flip it right away. And, the awareness for some people that haven't done the work is eye-opening. And so in the beginning, I want them to start tracking and thinking and just really catching themselves and watch how you're speaking to others. And if you're speaking to them with love, why wouldn't you not do it to yourself?
That's really valuable. And I love that you started with awareness because I think once that foundation is laid, they can focus on one of your other core teachings, which I really appreciate about the consistency creates calm. And that calm isn't passive, that it's more practice. And so from a nervous system perspective, this really makes a lot of sense. Our nervous systems crave predictability. Of course, we want to feel safe. And when life is really chaotic and sometimes unpredictable, some people get stuck, as in that fight or flight type stage. But when we can have rituals and have more of a predictability with a connection to ourselves, the nervous system can simply soften and shift back into safety. And so, could you talk about how daily rhythms create this steadiness in our body and minds, especially if the person is navigating whether it's like a high stress or uncertain season of life?
Yes, these rhythms that I found I set for myself, and that morning rhythm is the most important one. My last 2 jobs, I lost and I loved. I loved my jobs. One was, that's where I was the IT executive over quality and testing. And I loved all the people. I loved everything. And we brought in a new CEO and he got rid of some of the IT executives. And so there was a moment in time where I didn't know what was going to happen next, trying to figure that out, or I lost my brother suddenly. And what I ended up finding out is I had these rhythms. I've worked out for 30 plus years without ever missing a day, except for COVID and 2 days having to spend in the hospital. Well, even one of the days I had worked out in the morning. But that rhythm became my rescue because that was the one part of my day that no matter what, because I had done it for so long, I cannot not do a workout. I cannot not think about bringing the joy. I cannot not do some of all these mentally, spiritually, physical things I do in the morning. And for me, that was the one part of the day that I knew at least I still had a little bit of control over. And my body and mentally and spiritually, everything expected that. I mean, I got goosebumps now. That was the part that, gave me that peace. And even though the rest of the day could be chaotic and not sure what to do, but having that centeredness just really made a big difference for me.
Thank you for sharing, because I know a lot of people, the first thing they do is open up their phone in the morning and they start scrolling through, or they start getting anxious because they think of their to-do list. And I love how you're focusing and dedicating, intentional, conscious time to connect with yourself and to lay that foundation.
Yeah, and I do right now. I have, and this is not for everyone, but because the morning rhythms worked out so well for me, one of the things I teach is I want you to do some kind of movement within the first hour, minimum 20 minutes, ideally an hour, but not everyone has that time, but at least some movement, and drinking 20 ounces of water within the first 20 minutes because that wakes up your body too. I would do anything that I know is good for me that I didn't want to do. I added it to my morning routine, and to the point so that I now would do it. I didn't used to like water. Now I drink a ton of water, but I would have to start by drinking like 40 to 60 ounces of water in the first hour or two, just get my body used to it, or eating things that I didn't necessarily know or like, but where I became used to. So just doing all of those things. So I have all these different practices that I do helping me in my whole life. So now I don't have to work out very first thing in the morning, but I still will do a little bit of movement because it might be 3 hours later before I actually do my workout because I know it's going to happen. But in the beginning, when you're getting started, whatever the hardest thing is to do, that's the thing you need to do as soon as you get out of your bed. Not looking at the phone, not getting caught up in other people's agendas and working on their things, but you got to take care of yourself, because my firm belief is if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of others who rely on you, need you, and you're there to serve them, your family, your team, your whoever needs you.
Yeah. You've shared generously that you've suffered profound loss and transition, and you're sharing now how your own rhythms support you when life feels uncertain. And I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, can this really work when everything is falling apart? So let's talk about the 3 rhythms that you have within your program: awareness, winning, and continuity. Let's talk about those in a real life way. What does it actually look like in practice?
Okay. And again, the cool thing is, I think it's cool, but this awareness, winning rhythms, and continuity, we can start with a day, especially if a woman is so overwhelmed or has this horrible part of a tragedy that's going on that they don't know how they're going to keep going. With the awareness with them, we stop and we think and we pause and we think about the day. And I'd like a person to come up with one thing you're going to finish that day, because it's the winning rhythms. These are the 3 rhythms, and it's the finish line formula. Because if in the morning and you think about that, and this can be the first part before you're getting into the movement or all that. I mean, some women just need to really start small steps. And thinking about, who you do want to be, it does come down to identity, but what's one thing I can finish today that I would feel good about myself at night? And then at night, you ask yourself, would the woman I'm becoming be proud of how I finished today? And so those are kind of, you're going inward and you're becoming aware, and you can start journaling this and tracking it, because not every day you're going to finish. But because you're journaling and you're tracking it and you're measuring it, you're going to start to want to get those wins and taking care of yourself. So you're doing that within the day. And then when we go for self-leadership, and again, I believe if you can't lead yourself, you're not going to be able to lead your teams to the fullest, your family, whoever else in your life that you're leading, and we're all leaders in some way. If you can't lead yourself, how are you going to lead the teams? So then the winning rhythm is doing the thing. We'll go back to the D, finish that part. Doing that one thing. And then at night, it's the continuity of reviewing the question and repeating. So you got to get started, and it's 1 rep every single day. That's the consistency. So you get used to doing that. And especially this is more important when you are in a time of tragedy or significant loss. Just at least that gives you 5-10 minutes coming back to yourself in the morning and at night before you go to bed. And if you didn't finish where you wanted to finish that day, don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Just know tomorrow's a new day and you can start over. And for me, I love new beginnings. I love new days. I love Mondays. I love New Year's, new weeks. So you can always start over. Again, it's continuing. You're not beating yourself up and saying, I have to start from the beginning. So that's kind of how you go through it in a day, especially when you're more in a really hard spot. But then when you want to start living your day and doing self-leadership, leading yourself, this is where in the awareness rhythm, you dial it in a little bit more about who do I want to become and who I want to become and what dream do I want. Because you would already have the dream, then you would have already become that person. So there is something from where you are now to where you need to go for that dream. So there's some characteristics, different things you need to build. So you're thinking about that also in the self-awareness. You're doing different things of tracking your time on distractions, a lot of different things just to kind of bring yourself back and becoming more self-aware. A lot of people aren't self-aware, believe it or not. I mean, those of us who are in things like this, we are probably definitely more self-aware. So now you have that dream, then it's the winning rhythms. It's the 1-1-1-1 or my 11-11 winning rhythms is what I call it. And you're thinking about that one dream, not a million dreams, one dream. So you start there, and ultimately this is where you work towards. But again, depending on where you're at in life, if you've got a lot of young ones, this may not work. But starting with, you do 1 hour a day to work on that dream. But if you don't have some kind of workout routine or some kind of movement routine in place, I'm going to have you do that first before you really concentrate on this dream, the ultimate dream of creating a legacy or getting that promotion. So we'll start on the movement because, again, if you're not moving your brain, you're not mentally as good. And again, that also helps me bring the joy. I mean, you just feel so good. You've done something hard. And I'm always about doing the hard thing and always getting it done early in the morning. So you do that movement. And again, it could be 20 minutes. For some people who are just getting started, I had the 6-minute rule. If you do it for 6 minutes, because sometimes that's what I found is after the 6th minute, I will continue to do it. But don't feel like doing it after 6 minutes, you can stop. And so you do that. And then the next one in the 11-11 is 1% of your days spent on improving the skill you need. So either for the workout, you're improving a squat or you're improving your posture. If it's for a dream, for me, I want to become a great speaker. It would be practicing 15 minutes a day on some type of speaking. And then the one bold identity moving action, and that is something that you're scared to do. But I have found that that's moved me faster, farther, is doing those hard, bold moves. Like asking for a sale for somebody that I may not feel like they're worthy, or they might not think that I'm worthy for them. Just doing something like that, or doing a sales call with an unbelievable person. That's kind of the same thing. But doing something like that, something that would build my identity towards who I'm becoming. And then the final one is one more rep of something or one less rep. So one more rep, if you're a salesperson and you said you're going to do 10 sales calls that day, do the 11th one. Or it could be one less rep, because sometimes we're doing too much. Again, as overachieving women, we're doing too much. And what can you take away? Or are you doom scrolling? Can you do one less session? Because when you're adding this hour, many people think, oh, I don't have an hour. And again, we can start smaller and people can build up to it, because the thing is, you really do become more attached to wanting this dream faster as you start seeing movement. And you're doing those reps every single day. So that's really kind of the 1-1-1-1 part.
And that's the winning and consistency.
The winning part. So you're doing that. So you're doing it first for your body, and then for your dream, and then you can do it for your team too. So it works in different cases.
Awareness, winning, consistency. Thank you very much.
Yes.
For that detailed explanation. I appreciate that. I know our audience does.
Absolutely. And I like how you gave levels. So you can meet people where they're at.
Yes.
Whether it's 6 minutes or whether it's an hour, they're exactly where they need to be, right?
This is another thing I have to do or whatever, because I think once they get started too, they're going to find that they do love this. And again, it's that whole consistency, and pretty soon your body craves it. Your mind craves it. It wants that continuity of doing this thing. And every day it's like another rep. You're becoming better and you're getting more and more attached to doing that thing that's good for you.
Mm-hmm. It's starting to become a part of you, right?
Yeah. And then it becomes that's your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now you've got this newer identity.
As you created this principle and this concepts that you taught to people, eventually it sounds like really mastered this self-leadership rhythm, focus and philosophy. How did you apply it to how we lead teams or relationships? Because your background of leading an award-winning department for 12 years and 0 voluntary attrition, that doesn't happen by mistake, and that just doesn't happen randomly. So it's extraordinary. And I was curious of what's the connection between how you teach this concept of personal rhythms and then your ability to lead others so efficiently.
So again, it was because now I'm bringing my best self to work, right? I've brought the joy. I'm bringing the love. I know it also had to do, I was very particular in how I hired,
Mm-hmm.
but every single day, my team know that I was consistent in who I was and that I was strong and I could do hard things. I would help them out. I fought for them, but it was the love and the joy. When I look back at it, love is my number one business strategy. And I just brought that to work. And as I started hiring and getting more and more people, my people knew that I loved them, and I brought my whole self. I mean, I know everybody brings their whole self to work, whether you think, well, I can leave the issues at home. But I had monthly, weekly conversations with every single person in my team. And they truly appreciated that. And I felt like if I could understand their family and understand the issues that they were willing to share, I could more support them. And they knew that. And they knew I had an open door. They would come in, and I had consultants too. And the consultants told me, I've never been treated like, sometimes consultants aren't treated like real people, as they told me, but that they could genuinely feel that I loved and I cared for them. And I developed this whole team, and I started getting more and more people. I helped let them to start the hiring process. They knew what I was looking for, and they knew what our team was needed. But everyone was willing. Everyone loved each other on that team. I mean, I think they just felt that from me, and then they started doing it, and they were willing to do anything for each other. And they always knew I would be there too. I was never too good to not get in there and do the work, because we were always at the end of a process. A lot of times we had a lot of late nights. So I think a lot of that, I just brought all of that self-leadership I did with myself, and I knew I could conquer the day with love. And I think that they truly knew that. And I did extra things for them, but I was always trying to make them grow, because I feel like if you're not growing, you're dying. And they knew that I cared enough about them to look out for them. Even if I've met, they might go somewhere else. They never did. But if they wanted to, I was growing them so that they could.
That's beautiful. And, what I'm hearing is you being a role model and leading by example, and then also creating that container and that community that's nurturing and safe and has a growth mindset. And it's like a wonderful place to work. In another world, I would want to work there.
2-3 months ago, I had one of my former managers call me, and he said, "Oh, I miss those magical days of working for you." And I'm like, "Oh." So, yeah, that made me feel good. And I'm in touch with most of the people that I did work with. So the company was in Birmingham, and I lived in Madison, as I was saying. And so I did start to commute quite a bit in towards the end, because I had a big team. So I'd be there 2-3 weeks a month. So for me, it was even harder than losing the job, was losing this connection that I would see with people more on a daily in-person basis.
Well, Amy Jo, I certainly have learned so much today that I really look forward to applying to how I learn to lead myself. I love the idea of consistency, creating calm. I love the idea of creating rhythms, especially in a way that can create trust in myself, that I can do it, and about finishing. You say finishing what matters heals more than productivity. I love all that.
Yeah, because you can trust yourself. Like that self-trust, sometimes we lose that. And so if you can do that one thing each day, you're feeling more in control, when the world is maybe out of control.
And Amy Jo, you have a wonderful resource for our listeners, the 67-Day Champion Guide. Can you tell us about that and where people can find it?
Yes, if they comment finisher on my Instagram, or I have a LinkedIn, Amy Jolene Esser on my LinkedIn, either place, if they comment in the DMs, I will send it to them. And it's the 67-Day Championship. I learned from Bo Eason, who used to be a football player. I learned from him that it takes 67 days to create a habit. You hear the 21 days, and you hear all the different days. And this was done by a study in London. And the 67 days did work for me, so I like to promote that. But the thing is, it can be an Excel spreadsheet, and you can track it on the Excel spreadsheet, but I'd like you to print it out and do the physical crossing off, and you have it in front of you on your desk so that you see it. And what happens is you're not going to want to have an empty spot. You're going to want to have all those X's. I've heard that Jerry Seinfeld used to do that with every day he would practice a joke. And he wanted come up with a joke or practice a joke. And he did something similar to that. And he had it on a calendar on his desk, and he would just cross off every day. And he wanted no 0 days versus he wanted all X days. So it's a lot about that, and just picking one thing, again, starting small, one thing that seems a little hard for you, or one thing you just want to become consistent because you know this is building the identity of who you want to be. Because we all want to become someone more. We know we can do more. We're built for more. And again, it doesn't have to be outrageous.
Well, Amy Jo, thank you so much. I feel like this has been a grounded conversation, also practical, also just really soul and heart touching, because it's literally wrapped around the intention of love threaded through it. And I feel like it's medicine for people that are high functioning and high achieving. And it's probably the kind of medicine that they don't usually hear. You know, what I think you've done really well, at least my perception, is that how you're bridging discipline with devotion. You know, you're not setting up all these rigid rules or judging ourselves or punishing ourselves. You're talking about creating these like ornate and organic rhythms, you know, honoring the nervous system, which I'm very biased over in terms of, you know, just having it nice and calm and peaceful and grounded. And then that other part of trusting ourselves, like that Mindy mentioned, you know, and it's all of this together. It just sounds like it's a beautiful formula so we can lead from love, lead from steadiness, and just gently have stress dissipate. So this has been just a really beautiful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to everyone listening, please grab Amy Jo's 67-Day Championship Guide. We will have all of the ways to find her in the show notes, so you can begin practicing one winning rhythm. Just one, as she says, just one. And notice what shifts when you bring that predictability and completion into your days. And as we always say here on Soul Shift, it's the small shifts that create big transformations. And sometimes the most powerful shift is simply creating a rhythm that you can count on, a daily practice that tells your nervous system, you're safe, you've got this, you can trust yourself. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a high-achieving woman who looks like she has it all together but feels like she's barely holding on. And if you're new here, welcome to the Soul Shift community. Welcome to the Soul Shift family. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and join us every week as we explore the moments that change us, the nervous system behind it all, and how to come home to yourself in the sometimes messy middle of it all. So until next time, keep shifting your mind and igniting your soul. Thank you so very much for being here. Bye-bye.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
And offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If Soul Shift feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled.
And may your path be filled with grace.